They're all gone, Elena whispered. The luminary drifted in the debris field that had once been Saturn's outer research colony. Twisted metal and frozen bodies tumbled through space, testament to humanity's first real encounter with the Void Hunters. They had arrived 3 days ago, without warning or mercy. The neural interface, now covering most of Elena's torso in its living circuitry, showed her the colony's final moments. The hunters had simply appeared, reality folding around them like dark origami, and began their work of unmaking. No weapons had worked. No shields had held. 5,000 people, Marcus said quietly, studying the damage reports. They didn't even have time to send a distress signal. Through the interface, Elena felt the luminary's grim acknowledgement. They had collected 5 archive fragments now, each revealing more about their enemy's true nature. But knowledge meant nothing if they couldn't act in time. "Show me the pattern analysis again," she commanded. The ship's displays flickered, showing the spread of Void Hunter attacks across the solar system. Not random, she realized. They were being methodical, systematic, working their way inward from the outer colonies. "Probability calculations complete," the luminary announced. "At current rates, they will reach Earth in approximately 72 hours. Elena closed her eyes, letting the neural interface flow through her consciousness. The combined knowledge of 5 archive fragments burned in her mind, pieces of a solution the Aurori had never completed. A way to fight back against the universe's immune response. "We have to go back," she said finally. "Earth needs to be warned." "They will not listen," the luminary reminded her. "Your own people branded you a traitor. They believe the hunters can be fought with conventional weapons. Then we'll make them listen." The ship's drive engaged, translating them through spacetime. As they traveled, Elena reviewed what they had learned. The Void Hunters weren't just destroying civilization, they were erasing the very concept of ordered existence, returning matter and energy to their primordial chaos. But chaos, she had realized, wasn't their enemy. It was their tool. They emerged in Earth orbit to find the planet already mobilizing for war. The combined space fleets of every major nation had assembled, a show of force that would have been historic under any other circumstances. Against the hunters, it was less than meaningless. "Multiple targeting locks detected," Marcus reported. "They're not happy to see us." Elena ignored the warning shots fired across their bow, focusing instead on the tactical display. Earth's fleets were arranged in traditional defense patterns, ordered, predictable. Perfect targets. Broadcasting on all frequencies, she announced. "To all Earth forces, the weapons you've prepared will not work. The formations you've planned will not save you. The Void Hunters aren't an enemy you can fight, they're the universe trying to erase what it sees as a cosmic infection." "Hostile vessel, you are ordered to stand down," came the response from Earth Command. "Surrender for immediate boarding or be destroyed." Elena felt the luminary's frustration mirror her own. "Show them," she commanded. The ship sensors projected a real-time view of the outer system. One by one, lights representing automated outposts and smaller colonies winked out as the hunters advanced. Not explosions, just absence, as if they had never existed. "You can't fight entropy with order," Elena continued broadcasting. "But you can work with it." The Aurori almost understood, but they were too rigid in their thinking. Too devoted to patterns and structure. That was why they failed. Through the interface, she activated the knowledge they'd gained from the 5th archive fragment. The luminary's hull began to shift, not just in physical space but in probability space. Where before it had been a defined object, now it became a quantum uncertainty, existing in multiple states simultaneously. "Commander Rodriguez," a new voice cut through the calm, "this is Admiral Chen. Whatever you're doing with that ship, stop immediately. Our weapons are armed." "Your weapons can't even see us properly anymore," Elena replied. "Just like they won't see the hunters." Because we're not fully here. That's the key, you can't fight chaos with order. You have to become partially chaotic yourself. As if to punctuate her words, the first Void Hunter ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. Reality distorted around them, stars dimming in their wake. Earth's combined fleet, finally seeing their true enemy, began to react with predictable panic. "We have the knowledge," Elena broadcast. "We can teach you how to adapt your ships, your weapons. But you have to listen. You have to be willing to change at a fundamental level." The interface showed her the possibilities, humanity learning to exist between states of order and chaos, using uncertainty itself as both weapon and shield. It would mean changing what it meant to be human, becoming something the universe couldn't simply reject. But the alternative was extinction. "They're launching missiles," Marcus warned. Elena watched Earth's weapons approach, already knowing they would pass harmlessly through the luminary's quantum-shifted hull. "Admiral Chen, you have 1 hour before the hunters reach Mars. The choice is yours, evolve or die. We'll be waiting." The luminary translated away from Earth orbit, taking up position where they could observe both the approaching hunters and humanity's response. Through the interface, Elena prepared the transformation protocols they'd discovered. Changing an entire species' fundamental nature would be difficult, but humans had one advantage the Aurori never did: they were already comfortable with chaos. "Do you think they'll choose correctly?" Marcus asked. Elena watched the tactical display, hope warring with fear in her heart. "They'll have to. Because the universe has already made its choice." The final battle for humanity's existence was about to begin. But it wouldn't be fought with weapons or ships, it would be fought in the space between order and chaos, between being and unbeing. And this time, unlike the Aurori, they couldn't afford to lose. The red dwarf star burned like a dying ember in the void, its weak light barely illuminating the ancient structure before them. Elena stood at the luminary's observation point, the neural interface now covering most of her left arm in intricate, glowing patterns. 3 weeks had passed since their departure from Europa, and each day brought new understanding, and new dangers. "Signal confirmed," the luminary announced. "This facility contains the second archive fragment." The structure was unlike anything human eyes had seen before, a lattice of crystalline spires that seemed to phase in and out of normal spacetime, anchored to a dark asteroid. According to the archive, it was one of 7 waypoints left by the Aurori, each containing crucial pieces of their legacy. "Life support readings?" Elena asked, though she already knew the answer through the interface. "None. This facility has been dormant for approximately 2,947 Earth years." Marcus, who had chosen to stay with Elena despite the risks, studied the sensor readings. No signs of damage or forced entry. Whatever happened to the Aurori, they didn't make their last stand here. Elena felt the luminary's memories stir. No. This was an early warning post. They abandoned it when they realized conventional detection methods wouldn't work against the Void Hunters. You can't track what isn't really there. The neural interface pulsed, showing her visions of the facility's last days, Aurori scientists desperately trying to understand their enemy, watching as entire systems went dark without explanation. By the time they realized what they were dealing with, it was too late. Multiple contacts. Marcus's voice cut through her reverie. Dropping out of FTL at the system's edge. The tactical display bloomed with signatures. Earth vessels, Chinese, American, Russian, European. They had followed the luminary's energy wake across the stars. Persistent, Elena muttered. "I'll give them that." "They are afraid," the luminary observed. "Fear makes organic beings predictable. They believe possessing this knowledge will protect them. They do not understand it will only draw attention they are not prepared for." As if in response to the ship's words, new alarms blared. The space between the approaching human vessels distorted, reality itself seeming to tear. Elena's blood ran cold as the interface showed her what they were dealing with. Void Hunter scout vessel, she whispered. They followed us too. The human ships, still unaware of the true threat, began broadcasting demands for surrender. The Void Hunter ship simply existed, its presence an affront to physics. Where it moved, stars seemed to dim. The facility's defenses are still operational, the luminary reported. But activation will alert more hunters. Elena watched the tactical display, mind racing. The human ships were minutes away. The Void Hunter, seconds. The facility contained knowledge they desperately needed, not just weapons, but understanding of their enemy's fundamental nature. Can we get into the facility before they reach us? Yes. But departure will be complicated. Elena smiled grimly. When isn't it? Marcus, prepare for emergency translation. We're going in. The luminary surged forward, its hull rippling with energy fields that made it nearly invisible. The human vessels opened fire, their weapons largely ineffective against Aurori technology. But the Void Hunter, it simply consumed the space they had occupied moments before, leaving nothing but darkness. They reached the facility's docking port with moments to spare. Ancient mechanisms recognized the luminary signature, pulling them inside just as the Void Hunter's influence began to eat away at the outer defenses. Multiple breaches detected, the luminary announced. Facility integrity at 82% and falling. We have minutes at most. Elena was already moving, the neural interface guiding her through crystalline corridors that hummed with dormant power. Show me where. The archive fragment was housed in a chamber at the facility's heart, protected by fields of pure energy. As Elena approached, the defenses recognized her interface patterns and parted. Download initiated, the luminary confirmed. But the Void Hunter's presence is problematic. Through the interface, Elena felt it, reality itself being unmade around them, the Hunter's entropy field consuming everything it touched. The human vessels, finally realizing the true nature of their situation, had begun to retreat. How much longer? Download at 67%. Facility integrity now at 41%. The chamber shuddered as another section of the structure was consumed. Elena watched through the facility's sensors as the Void Hunter methodically erased chunks of Aurori architecture from existence. They're not just destroying it, she realized. They're eating it. Converting ordered matter back into chaos. It is their nature, the luminary agreed. As creation is ours. The interface suddenly blazed with new information as the download completed. Elena gasped as understanding flooded her consciousness. The Aurori hadn't just been fighting a war, they had been trying to solve a fundamental problem with the universe itself. The Void Hunters, she breathed. They're not invaders. They're an immune response. Reality itself trying to fight back against consciousness, against order. Yes. The luminary's voice held something like approval. Now you begin to understand the true scope of our mission. The facility groaned, more sections vanishing into nothingness. Download complete. But our exit vector is compromised. Elena studied the tactical display, watching the Void Hunter's methodical destruction. An idea formed, insane, but possible with their new knowledge. The Hunter converts order to chaos, she said. But that conversion releases energy. Energy we can use. The luminary was silent for a moment, calculating. The probability of success is low. Better than the probability of survival if we do nothing. Through the interface, ship and pilot planned in microseconds. As the Void Hunter approached their position, they began powering up the facility's remaining systems, not to fight, but to create a beacon of order so bright it would be irresistible to their enemy. Ready, Elena announced. Marcus, hold on to something. The Void Hunter took the bait, surging forward to consume the energy buildup. At the last possible moment, the luminary engaged its drive, using the massive energy release from the facility's destruction to boost their translation into space that even the hunters couldn't follow. They emerged half a light-year away, system strained but intact. Through the interface, Elena accessed the new knowledge they'd gained, understanding blooming in her mind. "We know where the next fragment is," she said. "And now we know why the Aurori chose to cede their knowledge instead of using it themselves. They weren't just fighting the Void Hunters, they were looking for a species that could think differently. Approach the problem from a new angle." "And have you found that angle, pilot?" the luminary asked. Elena watched the distant stars, mind racing with possibilities. "Not yet. But we will. Because unlike the Aurori, humans are used to being underdogs. We've spent our entire history turning weaknesses into strengths." The neural interface pulsed with agreement as they plotted their next jump. Behind them, in the space they'd fled, the Void Hunter emerged from the facility's ruins. It had consumed the knowledge it could reach, but its prey had escaped. New hunting patterns would be needed. The game of cat and mouse continued, but now the mouse had teeth. The dreams came first. Elena floated in the zero gravity of the ship's central chamber, her mind swimming with visions of worlds she had never seen. The neural interface that had merged with her palm now spread in delicate, luminescent patterns up her arm, each line pulsing in sync with her heartbeat. It had been 3 days since first contact, and the ship, which she now knew was called the Luminary, had shown her more about the universe than humanity had learned in its entire history. "Commander Rodriguez," Marcus's voice cut through her meditation. "The UN Security Council is demanding another update. And NASA's on hold. Again." Elena opened her eyes, watching the holographic displays that filled the chamber shift and reform like schools of fish. "Tell them the same thing we told them yesterday. The ship is still in quarantine protocol. No unauthorized personnel." What she couldn't tell them was the truth, that the Luminary had chosen her, and only her, as its pilot. That it would defend itself against any attempted intrusion. The scorch marks on the ice where a military probe had tried to force entry were proof enough of that. "They're not going to accept that forever," Marcus warned. "Chinese vessels were spotted entering Jupiter's orbit this morning. Russians aren't far behind." The Luminary's displays flickered, showing Elena a tactical overview of the space around Europa. More ships than there should be, all claiming to be research vessels. All armed. "Time is limited," the ship's voice chimed in her mind. "The knowledge transfer must be completed before they intervene. Or before they arrive." "The Void Hunters," Elena whispered. She had seen them in the ship's memories, beings of pure entropy, consuming civilizations not for resources or territory, but simply because they could not bear the existence of order in their chaos. The interface pulsed, and new information flooded her consciousness. She saw the Aurori's last stand, their great cities of crystal and light falling one by one. Saw how they had seeded the galaxy with ships like the Luminary, each containing a fragment of their civilization's knowledge, each waiting for species worthy of wielding it. "Show me," Elena commanded. "Show me everything." The chamber transformed. She stood on an Aurori world, its triple suns casting rainbow shadows through floating cities that defied physics. Beings of pure energy moved around her, their thoughts a symphony of mathematics and poetry. They were beautiful, Marcus breathed. She hadn't realized he was still on the comm. They were arrogant, the ship corrected. They believed their mastery of light and energy made them invulnerable. They did not understand the darkness until it was too late. The scene changed. Elena watched the Void Hunters emerge from the spaces between stars, their forms impossible to comprehend, gaps in reality that consumed everything they touched. The Aurori fought back with weapons that could reshape planets, but you couldn't fight nothingness with something. Not directly. But they found a way, Elena said, understanding flowing through the interface. They created you. The ships. The archive. We are their legacy, the luminary confirmed. And their weapon. Each ship contains a piece of the solution. Together, we can teach younger races how to fight the darkness. If they are worthy. If they are ready. An alarm pierced the vision, yanking Elena back to reality. Marcus's voice was tight with tension. Commander, we've got movement. Multiple ships breaking orbit. They're on an intercept course. The luminary's displays showed her the truth, vessels from 3 different nations, all accelerating towards Europa. Humanity's worst instincts at work. They didn't even know what the ship was capable of, but they were ready to fight for it. Pilot, the ship's voice was urgent now. We must complete the transfer. Your species stands at a crossroads. The knowledge I carry could save humanity, or destroy it, if misused. You must decide. Elena watched the approaching ships, her mind racing. The interface showed her possibilities, probabilities, futures branching like lightning through storm clouds. In one future, humanity united under the threat of the Void Hunters, using the Aurore's knowledge to reach heights undreamed of. In another, they turned that same knowledge against each other, reducing Earth to ash before the real enemy even arrived. How long? She asked. For full integration. Hours. But they will be here in minutes. Elena straightened, decision made. Marcus, send a message to the approaching vessels. Tell them. She smiled as the ship's systems hummed to life around her, ancient engines waking. Tell them to catch us if they can. The luminary pulsed, ice cracking as it freed itself from its centuries-long birth. Energy fields far beyond human understanding wrapped around its hull, ready to propel them beyond the reach of conventional physics. Where are we going? Marcus asked, his voice a mix of fear and excitement. Elena felt the ship's consciousness merge more deeply with her own, showing her a path through space that hadn't been traveled in centuries. To find the other ships. To complete the archive. And maybe, if we're very lucky, to save our species from itself before the real enemy arrives. The luminary rose through the shattered ice of Europa, its surface rippling with patterns of light that made pursuing ships' targeting systems useless. As they accelerated past the edge of Jupiter's gravity well, Elena felt a moment of guilt for what she was about to do. Humanity wasn't ready for all of the Aurore's knowledge. Not yet. But they would be. She would make sure of it. Prepare for translation, she commanded. The ship's drive engaged, and reality bent around them. The pursuing vessels, the politics of Earth, all of it fell away as they slipped between the conventional layers of space-time. Through the interface, Elena felt the luminary's satisfaction. After 238 years of waiting, its mission could finally continue. As Jupiter dwindled behind them, Elena accessed more of the archive, learning about the network of ships scattered across the galaxy. Each contained a different piece of the puzzle, each waited for its own pilot. And somewhere out there in the darkness, the Void Hunters stirred, sensing the reactivation of their ancient enemy's technology. The race was on. The ice of Europa had kept its secret for centuries. Commander Elena Rodriguez stood at the edge of the massive excavation, her breath fogging the inside of her helmet as she stared down into the abyss. The floodlights from their drilling platform cast long shadows across the crystalline walls, creating an otherworldly dance of light and darkness. 200 meters below, something impossible waited. Final structural analysis complete, Commander. Dr. Marcus Webb's voice crackled through her comm, the cavity is stable. We can proceed with the approach. Elena checked her suit's diagnostics one final time. After 8 months of drilling through Europa's frozen crust, after countless setbacks and near disasters, they had finally reached their target. The object that had appeared on their deep scanning radar like a ghost in the ice, a perfect oval, 300 meters long, composed of materials that shouldn't exist in this solar system. Acknowledged, she responded, activating her suit's propulsion system. Beginning descent. Keep the channel open. The descent felt eternal. Strip lights along her suit's arms cast a pale blue glow as she navigated through the shaft, ice particles swirling around her like stars. The object grew larger, its surface a deep obsidian that seemed to drink in the light. No signs of damage, no evidence of its age. It looked as if it had been placed here yesterday, not centuries ago. At 50 meters, her suit's sensors began to pick up energy readings. Weak, but present. Impossible energy readings. "Are you seeing this, Marcus?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Confirmed. Low-level quantum fluctuations. "Elena, that ship is active." Ship. They had avoided using that word during the official briefings, stuck to safer terms like anomaly and structure. But there was no denying it now. This was a vessel, and it hadn't been built by human hands. At 20 meters, everything changed. A pulse of energy rippled across the ship's surface, like rings spreading across a pond. Elena's suit instruments went wild, then dead, then rebooted. And in that moment of darkness, she heard it. Not through her comm, but in her mind. A voice like crystal chimes, speaking in a language she had never heard but somehow understood. Genetic compatibility detected. Neural pattern accepted. Initiating primary interface. The ship's surface shifted, flowing like liquid metal, forming an opening just large enough for a human form. Light spilled out, not harsh or artificial, but organic, almost alive. And Elena knew, with a certainty that transcended logic, that she was meant to enter. "Commander, we're getting massive energy spikes," Marcus's voice was tense. "Whatever's happening down there is exactly what's supposed to happen," Elena finished. She took a deep breath, centuries of human curiosity and courage flowing through her veins. Beginning first contact protocol. As she crossed the threshold, the ship's surface rippled again, sealing behind her. The interior was a single chamber, its walls covered in flowing patterns of light that reminded her of neural networks. At the center stood a pillar of what looked like flowing glass, and within it, suspended in time, was a device about the size of her palm. The voice came again, stronger now. "You are the first compatible pilot we have encountered in 238 years. The archive awaits your input, Elena Rodriguez of Earth." She reached for the device, her hand steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "How do you know my name?" "We have been watching. Learning. Waiting for one whose mind could withstand the interface. The others, their neural patterns were insufficient. They could not bear the weight of our knowledge." Elena's fingers closed around the device. It was warm, pulsing like a heartbeat. "What others?" "Those who came before. Those who failed. Those who died trying to force their way in. We protected our secrets until the right one came. And now you are here." The device melted into her palm, and the universe exploded behind her eyes. She saw stars being born and civilizations rising and falling. She saw the aurori, beings of living light, fighting their endless war against the darkness between stars. She saw their final victory, and the terrible price they paid for it. And she saw what was coming. "The Void Hunters," she whispered, the knowledge burning in her mind. "They're still out there." "Yes," the ship responded. "And now they know we are awake." Through the pain and wonder of the interface, Elena smiled. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for centuries. Now they had it, along with a war they never asked for. But if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was surviving against impossible odds. "Then we better start preparing," she said, as the ship's systems fully activated, sending a pulse of energy that would be felt across the solar system. Above, in the ice shaft, Marcus and the rest of the team watched in awe as patterns of light began to spread through Europa's crust, like veins of fire in the ice. The long sleep was over. The real work was about to begin. The void between Mars and Earth burned with possibility. Elena watched through the luminary's quantum-shifted sensors as the first wave of void hunters approached the human fleet. The neural interface, now a living lattice of light covering most of her body, showed her the battle in ways human eyes were never meant to see, probability clouds colliding, reality itself buckling under the strain. "They're implementing the protocols," Marcus reported, his voice tight with tension. 30% of Earth's fleet showing successful quantum transformation. It had taken 47 minutes to convince Earth's leaders, but in the end, the extinction-level threat approaching their planet had proven more persuasive than politics. Now they raced against time, using the Aurori knowledge to transform their ships and crews into something new, entities that could exist in the same uncertain state as their enemy. "Hunter Vanguard approaching transformed vessels," the luminary announced. "Preparing to observe effectiveness." Elena held her breath as the first engagement began. The transformed human ships, their hulls flickering between states of existence, met the Void Hunters in combat. Where before the Hunters had simply unmade everything they touched, now they faced resistance, uncertainty fighting uncertainty, chaos meeting chaos. "It's working," Marcus breathed. "The Hunters, they can't just erase them anymore." Through the interface, Elena felt the luminary's approval. The Aurori sought perfection in order. Humanity understands the value of imperfection, of existing between states. This makes you adaptable. But the battle was far from over. Only a third of Earth's fleet had completed the transformation, and the Hunters were already adapting their tactics. Where they couldn't simply unmake their targets, they began working to collapse their quantum states, forcing them back into conventional reality where they could be destroyed. "We need more time," Elena broadcast to the fleet. "Keep them engaged while the rest of the ships complete their transformation." "Negative, Commander," Admiral Chen's voice crackled through the comm, "the Hunters have broken through our lines. A splinter group is heading for Earth. We need a solution now." Elena accessed the combined knowledge of all 5 archive fragments, searching desperately for an answer. The interface burned with possibilities, probabilities, paths not taken. Then she saw it. "The Aurori weren't wrong about order," she said slowly. "They just tried to impose it from the outside. But what if we could create order from within chaos itself?" The luminary's consciousness stirred with interest. "Elaborate." Through the interface, Elena shared her revelation. The Void Hunters weren't just agents of chaos, they were a natural function of the universe, maintaining balance. But balance didn't have to mean the elimination of consciousness. It could mean the evolution of consciousness into something new. "All ships, new protocol," she broadcast. "Don't fight the quantum uncertainty. Embrace it. Push it further. We're not just going to exist between states, we're going to create a new state entirely." The interface pulsed as she channeled power through the luminary systems, demonstrating what she meant. The ship's quantum field didn't just flicker between existence and non-existence, it began to harmonize, finding resonant frequencies in the fabric of reality itself. "Pattern recognized," the luminary announced. "Transmitting specifications to transformed vessels." One by one, the human ships adjusted their fields. Where before they had been random in their uncertainty, now they moved in concert, their quantum states synchronizing like a vast cosmic orchestra. The Void Hunters, sensing the change, began to pull back. "They're retreating," Marcus said incredulously. "No," Elena corrected. "They're responding. Look." Through the quantum-shifted sensors, they watched as the Hunters' entropy fields began to change. Instead of simply consuming order, they started to interact with it, creating complex patterns in the void between states. It wasn't communication, not exactly. It was more fundamental than that. "We're teaching the universe a new way to be stable," Elena realized. Not through rigid order or total chaos, but through dynamic balance. through consciousness that can shift and flow with the natural entropy of existence. The interface showed her the larger picture, how this change, once started, would ripple out across reality. Humanity wouldn't just survive, they would become something new. Not better, not worse, but different. Adapted. And in doing so, they would help the universe itself evolve. Hunter vessels are withdrawing from the solar system, Marcus reported. But the quantum field effects, they're still spreading. Elena watched as the transformation continued, touching every ship, every station, eventually reaching Earth itself. Through the interface, she felt the changes beginning, subtle at first, then accelerating. Humanity learning to exist in multiple states, to think in quantum possibilities instead of linear certainties. The Aurori seeded their knowledge across the galaxy, she said, not to find someone who could win their war, but to find someone who could end it. Who could show the universe a different way. And now? Marcus asked. Elena smiled as the neural interface pulsed with new possibilities, doorways opening to regions of space the Aurori had never dreamed of, consciousness expanding beyond the boundaries of conventional physics. Now we explore, she said. There's a whole universe out there, existing in states we're only beginning to understand. And we're finally ready to see it properly. The luminary systems hummed with approval as they prepared to translate into quantum space. Behind them, Earth glowed with new potential, its people taking their first steps into an existence where certainty and uncertainty danced in eternal balance. The ship that had slept for 238 years had awakened humanity to their true potential. And somewhere in the void between states, the hunters watched and learned, as the universe itself began to change. The end.